He walked through the long road that shimmered under a sun that burned like an unending promise, and around him the wind carried grains of dust that spoke of countless forgotten travelers. Yet none had left a mark as he did, for his steps were heavy with purpose, though his heart knew not where it led. And when he saw her sitting beside a broken caravan wheel, hair tangled with wind, eyes lost to the horizon, he felt the dust settle for the first time. The silence between them was a whisper from the earth itself, and though he said nothing, she lifted her gaze, and the wind seemed to bow around them as if the world paused to see what would follow, and neither knew that the path ahead would drown them in storms before it crowned them in light. The sky tore open one evening when the horizon bled gray, and the scent of wet earth called them into motion. Together the rain fell heavy and relentless, and it painted her cheeks like tears, not of sorrow, but of renewal. They sought shelter under a fallen arch of stone, and for the first time they laughed, the sound breaking through thunder like a promise unspoken. She handed him a piece of bread soaked in rainwater, and he tasted more warmth in that than in all the meals he had ever known. And as the storm raged, she hummed a tune that no one had sung in centuries, and it wrapped around his chest like a gentle hand. He knew then that the rain was not meant to wash them away, but to bind their wandering hearts in its rhythm. They walked where paths disappeared, and rivers twisted around stone like silver veins. The land was cruel, but her spirit was not. She spoke of dreams of a home beyond the mountains, where laughter could breathe without fear. And though he said nothing, he carried that dream like a secret flame. Every night by the fire, she would draw lines in the sand, marking stars above, and tell him the names she had given them. He listened as if each name carved a place in his soul. And sometimes, when she slept, he traced the stars. She had drawn his fingers, trembling not from cold, but from something new that he dared not name. They were still strangers, bound by distance and silence, yet every step made the distance smaller, until their hearts began to move in rhythm with the same unseen music. When they reached the city, it rose from the dust like a memory waiting to be remembered. Broken towers leaned against each other. Streets were filled with echoes and the sound of 1,000 forgotten songs. She smiled at its ruin, for to her, ruin meant something that had once lived. They wandered through its corridors and found a hall filled with old instruments that no one had touched in ages. She placed his hand on a stringed shell and guided his fingers until the note sang out, trembling and pure. The air quivered, and for a moment the city seemed to wake. Its lights flickered faintly, as if the melody had reminded it of joy. They danced in silence, their shadows moving against ancient walls. And though no word passed between them, something deeper than speech had already begun to bloom. The journey stretched longer than their memories could hold. The dust returned, but so did the rain. Sometimes both fell together, and the ground beneath their feet turned to soft clay that remembered every step they took. She fell once on a slope, her hand scraping against the earth, and he caught her, his arms circling her waist, and in that pause where the world felt weightless, their eyes met. and he saw himself reflected in her, the man he was and the man she had made him become. There was no confession, no vow, only a breath that trembled between them, as if the universe exhaled in relief. And when the wind rose again, it carried their laughter across valleys that had never known joy. They reached the sea at last, where the world seemed to end and begin all at once. The air was thick with salt and promise. Waves crashed like the heartbeat of creation, and they stood side by side, watching light scatter on water. She whispered that everything she had lost had led her here, and he answered not with words, but with a touch that said forever. The rain began once more, soft, gentle, endless, and it mingled with the dust that still clung to their skin, turning it into something new, something sacred. Their hands met, their eyes closed, and the world faded into rhythm, their souls weaving through the storm and silence. And in that unbroken moment, they were no longer travelers, no longer strangers. They were one journey, written in dust and rain. Night fell like a blessing, and the sea whispered secrets older than their hearts. They built a small fire upon the sand, its flame bending in rhythm with the wind. And as she leaned against him, he felt her heartbeat echo through the stillness. She asked him if he believed the stars were alive, and he said he did, for one of them had fallen to earth and become her. She smiled, though he could not see it, for her face was hidden in his shoulder, and the firelight danced across her hair like a crown forged of distant suns. They began to hum the melody they had found in the city of forgotten songs. And it rose into the night, soft yet eternal. The waves joined in, the sky shimmered, and every sound became part of their unending story. When the fire burned low, he traced her hand in the sand beside his and whispered that if the world ever forgot them, the sea would remember. And she answered with a breath that said, "It already does." Morning rose quiet upon the horizon, and the world seemed reborn in gold. They walked along the edge of the sea, leaving footprints that the tide reached for but could never erase. The journey was behind them, yet it lived within them, in every scar and every smile. She turned to him and asked where they would go now, and he told her, anywhere the wind led, as long as her shadow walked beside his. They passed fields of wildflowers, blooming where the dust had once ruled, and in that sight they understood that love was not an ending, but a road that bent endlessly through time. When the rain came once more, it did not fall heavy. It drifted light, like a farewell from the sky. And as they walked into it, hand in hand, their laughter mingled with thunder, and their hearts beat as one, forever moving, forever becoming, from strangers to soulmates, in a journey written not just in dust and rain, but in every dawn yet to come.